Hi, good morning. I didn't plan on coming here. I wasn't planning on coming here, but so as some of you guys know, I've been working on this video about summer for like ever, like a really, really long time. And I finally got it all done. And I was going to set it as a premiere, but I changed my mind and I made it into a live stream instead. So the plan is that it's a half an hour long. So I'm just going to put it up and we're going to play it, and it is what it is, and I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm just going to just let it play. But I do want to say before it starts that I made this entire video. I wrote the script, I did the editing, I did the clipping of the news, I did all the research. It's taken me, I couldn't tell you how many weeks of time. So I would appreciate it if you would share, but please don't steal my content, especially if you're going to do it for monetization purposes. The last thing that I want is for someone to use this video for exploitation purposes, clicks and views and subs and whatever else. Okay, I'm not one to ask YouTube to take a video down. It makes me feel horrible. Like, just, it's the most awkward thing in the world. So just don't put me in that position. I appreciate it. So here we go. Like I say, this is all like original. There's nothing in here that like would take me down for copyright. So I'm going to get out of the way and we're going to let this play, and fingers crossed that StreamYard sticks with it. So I'll be in the chat. I love you guys, and I'll see you when it's done.
June 15th, 2021. A warm, sun-drenched afternoon in the hills of rural East Tennessee. The kind of day where the light lingers over green ridges and the air hums with cicadas and the smell of freshly cut grass. Out here, winding gravel roads lead to homes tucked into the hollows, surrounded by dense woods and steep slopes that seem to swallow sound. It was here, on Ben Hill Road in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County, that 5-year-old Summer Wells spent what seemed like an ordinary summer day, until it wasn't. Earlier that day, Summer was reportedly with her mother, Candace Bly, her grandmother, Candace Hara, and a friend of her mother's. The group spent the morning running errands in Kingsport, a city roughly 20 miles from the family's home in the rural Beech Creek community of Hawkins County, Tennessee. In the early afternoon, they stopped at Warriors Path State Park, where Summer was seen swimming and playing in the water.
The three, along with a friend that Candace describes as a minor, then came swimming here at Warriors Path State Park. It's where the last known video of Summer was taken and then posted to TikTok.
After dropping off Candace's friend, Summer, her mother and her grandmother, reportedly returned home sometime around 3:30 that afternoon. By early evening, the summer sun was still spilling over the hills, but on Ben Hill Road, something was wrong. It was around 6:30 when the call came into Hawkins County Dispatch. A 5-year-old child was gone.
Being around 110, 110 Ben Hill Road off of Beech Creek should be the first residence on your right. Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Summer Wells is missing. She's 5 years old. She's 4 foot tall, blonde hair. Last seen wearing a pink shirt and gray pants. According to her siblings, she just walked out the back door and then disappeared. So we don't know where she went, if she went toward the road or in the woods.
She was reported missing at 6:30 p.m. Police say sibling reported she walked out of her house.
Earlier tonight, around 7 o'clock, Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson says this 4-year-old little girl named Summer Wells, and maybe we can show you the photo of her again here in just a moment. She was last seen walking away from her home on Ben Hill Road.
We were told that she was seen walking from her home on that road.
Around Ben Hill Road in that area, that's the main, because she's 5 years old and she left the house. Evidently, she got a little farther than they expected.
Search teams immediately began ground sweeps around the Wells home. The first efforts focused on the surrounding property and the dense woods that press in on all sides, continuing well into the night.
tonight. Crews are searching on the ground. Helicopters are scanning overhead. We are told that police have blocked off roadways in that area in order for them to do a comprehensive search.
Tonight, emergency crews from around Hawkins County have converged on this rural community near Church Hill. They're looking for 4-year-old Summer Wells. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson said she was last seen walking from her home on Ben Hill Road off Beech Creek Road. Hawkins County deputies and first responders are searching on the ground. THP and medical helicopters are in the air. We're told a command post has been established, and we're at a Baptist church on Beech Creek Road, where we're told information will be released as soon as it's available.
The search that evening involved between 60 and 80 people, including the Hawkins County Rescue Squad, local volunteer fire departments, and aerial support from the Tennessee Highway Patrol. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation was also called in that night. In the early hours of the next morning, at 12:07 a.m., the TBI issued an endangered child alert, releasing Summer's description to the public. Through the night, search crews pushed forward under the glow of headlights and handheld flashlights, their voices carrying through the hollows as they called Summer's name. The steep Appalachian slopes around the Wells home made every step a challenge, and the heavy canopy overhead kept much of the terrain in shadow even by morning. By daylight on June 16th, the operation had expanded dramatically. The FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team joined the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, and 19 other agencies. More than 100 personnel, from trained search teams to scent tracking K9 units, fanned out across the property and beyond, while helicopters scanned the ridgelines from above and ATVs navigated the gravel roads and narrow hollows. Searchers dotted the hillsides, their brightly coloured vests flashing between the trees as they moved in coordinated lines. Shoulder to shoulder, they swept through thickets and waded across shallow creeks, their boots sinking into mud softened by nearby streams. The air was heavy with humidity, and the steady hum of insects mixed with the low murmur of radios as teams methodically closed the gaps between them. At 1 o'clock that afternoon, the TBI made a significant change, upgrading Summer's endangered child alert to a statewide Amber Alert. During a media briefing later that day, TBI spokesperson Leslie Earhart explained the decision.
After the initial search and as we developed more information as part of the investigation, our team made the decision to elevate the alert to an amber.
And what's the difference between those?
An endangered child alert is a mid-level alert where a child could potentially be in danger. An amber alert is, we issue those when we believe a child is in imminent danger of bodily harm or death, and it's the most severe alert. Again, there was the initial search. We acted, and the sheriff's office acted on the information available at the time. And as we learned more in the first several hours into today, it led us to issue an Amber Alert.
Sheriff Ronnie Lawson described the conditions as very dense, with limited radio communication and no cell service, challenges that slowed coordination between search teams and command posts. The area's narrow gravel roads and steep drop-offs limited vehicle access, forcing crews to hike in on foot and carry their gear over uneven ground. When asked where searchers were focusing their efforts and where locals should be watching, Lawson offered a simple but telling answer.
Well, the terrain and stuff is like you see here. This is what the people are searching in, but if they seen something yesterday evening or afternoon that we need to know, that's when they need to make the call or come by the command post.
Any kind of landmarks in sort of an area you're searching?
Just around Ben Hill Road in that area. That's the main, because she's 5 years old and she left the house, and evidently she got a little farther than they expected.
Authorities also urged nearby residents to take part in the effort, to review any trail or security camera footage, check out buildings, sheds, crawl spaces, and any other spot where a child might hide or be concealed. Every potential lead, no matter how small, could make the difference. By the end of the day, roughly 30 tips had been called in to investigators. Search teams had canvassed between 2,400 and 3,000 acres, the equivalent of nearly 4 to 5 square miles, of dense Appalachian wilderness surrounding the Wells home. Crews had battled steep inclines, thick vegetation, and oppressive heat, checking outbuildings, sheds, crawl spaces, and overgrown hollows. Despite the sheer manpower, specialized resources, and relentless pace, there was still no trace of Summer.
She was last seen outside of her home in the 100 block of Ben Hill Road, which is located in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County. A family member reported her missing to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office at approximately 6:30 Tuesday evening. At the time she went missing, Summer was reportedly wearing a gray pants and a pink shirt. She is believed to be barefoot.
By the morning of June 17th, the search for Summer Wells was entering its third day, and the search effort had tightened its focus. Crews concentrated on a roughly 1-mile radius around the Wells home, a sweep that now included steep ravines, narrow hollows, and thick pockets of undergrowth that had yet to be checked. More than 100 trained personnel were on the ground, drawn from 19 agencies across Tennessee and surrounding states. They were joined by specialized resources, including scent-tracking K-9 units, fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, drones, and forward-looking infrared technology. At a 1 p.m. media briefing, TBI spokesperson Leslie Earhart acknowledged what many had feared. Despite the scale of the search, there was still no sign of Summer. "We had hoped to have good news to share with you by now," she said, "but unfortunately we do not." It was during this same briefing that something else became apparent. The tone of the investigation portion of the case had shifted. The once clear details about where Summer was last seen were no longer repeated. In their place were vague, guarded responses that revealed little.
As we've stated before, the circumstances surrounding Summer's disappearance remain unclear. So if we do develop information that she was taken and we develop a suspect and a vehicle description, of course, we will share that with the public immediately. At this time, that's just not the case.
What time was she last seen and who reported her missing to the family?
Sheriff?
Her parents reported her missing right around 6:30 p.m.
But when was do they say when she was last seen? I know she was reported missing around that time. Was she last seen earlier in the afternoon or the day even?
That time is varied because they were searching for their child themselves.
Adding to the strangeness, Summer's parents, Don Wells and Candace Bly, were not present at the scene that day. Although it won't be revealed for several days, Don and Candace never attend any of the media briefings. On the search side of things, Captain Tim Coop of the Churchill Rescue Squad, serving as the incident commander for ground search operations, confirmed what searchers had been battling since the first night. The terrain was both steep and dangerous, with a dense canopy overhead that blocked much of the sunlight. Heavy underbrush tangled their progress, and the same poor cell reception that had plagued the investigation from the start continued to slow communication between crews in the field and their command posts. As the day wore on, specialized teams navigated into areas that were too difficult to reach on horseback or ATV, forcing them to move slowly on foot. Searchers methodically combed through overgrown gullies, creek beds, and thickets where visibility dropped to only a few feet ahead. Officials stressed that only trained professionals were participating in the search due to the hazardous terrain. They asked the public not to join in physically, but to help in other ways, by sharing credible information, checking security and trail cameras, and inspecting crawl spaces, outbuildings, and sheds that might serve as hiding places. By that point, investigators had received nearly 50 tips, but none had led to Summer. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson reiterated that everybody is a person of interest until we find Summer, and that everything's on the table in the investigation. Ground operations ended each night at around 8 p.m., but Lawson made it clear that any credible lead, no matter the time, would be acted upon immediately. At approximately 8:40 p.m., officials issued another public request to residents along or near Ben Hill Road to check their trail cameras, security footage, and outbuildings for anything that might aid the investigation. The third day of searching came to a close the same way the one before had, with no sign of Summer Wells. On Friday, June 18th, the search for Summer Wells had grown to include 41 agencies and covered roughly 1,000 acres. Crews remained concentrated around Ben Hill Road and the adjoining parcels, methodically sweeping the same rugged terrain. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation once again urged residents to check barns, outbuildings, and trail camera footage, emphasizing the importance of not overlooking any area. There was still no sign that the search had expanded significantly beyond that initial 1-mile radius. That afternoon, TBI spokesperson Leslie Earhart opened a press briefing by reminding the public that there were two distinct but parallel operations: the physical search and the broader investigation. While search updates could be shared publicly, the investigative side remained mostly behind the scenes. She reported that approximately 85 tips had been received so far, each of which was being followed up. Incident Commander Captain Tim Coop of the Churchill Rescue Squad detailed the scope of the operation: more than 100 trained ground searchers, aerial searches by helicopter and fixed-wing aircraft, multiple canine teams, advanced mapping technology, dive teams, extreme terrain search specialists, and subject matter experts. Urban search and rescue teams were also deployed. The terrain was described as extreme, exhausting crews quickly. By the end of June 17th, 680 acres had been searched. The goal was to reach 1,000 acres by the end of the current phase. Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson reiterated that the investigation was active and ongoing, with everything on the table until they determined exactly what happened to Summer. He discouraged unsolicited searches by members of the general public, stressing that the search area was being covered by trained professionals who were tracked and accounted for at all times. Lawson also urged the public to focus on credible tips, such as actual sightings or relevant footage, rather than rumors or speculation from social media, which he said only slowed down the investigation. When asked about the circumstances surrounding Summer's disappearance, Lawson confirmed they were still under investigation and declined to characterize cooperation from the family, beyond saying that, currently, they are cooperating. TBI's Earhart added that if investigators were ever able to confirm an abduction, that information would be shared immediately. There was also a subtle shift in language compared to the day before, and in that change, an entirely new layer of the story emerged.
As we've stated before, the circumstances surrounding Summer's disappearance remain unclear. So if we do develop information that she was taken and we develop a suspect and a vehicle description, of course, we will share that with the public immediately. At this time, that's just not the case.
Well, at this time, the circumstances leading to Summer's disappearance are very much under investigation. So currently, it's an active and ongoing investigation. We're not going to stop until we determine what happened to her, and we're just taking it one day at a time.
By nightfall, crews had pushed the search toward their 1,000-acre goal, combing the same steep ravines, tangled undergrowth, and waterways that had been scoured for days. Yet despite the sheer scale of the operation, there was still no sign of Summer. The public face of the search remained steady, methodical, relentless, but the language from investigators hinted at something else entirely. A case whose direction might be shifting in ways the public couldn't yet see. That evening, Don Wells told reporters, "We know she was abducted. Somebody snuck up there when we weren't exactly paying attention. We don't know if they came into the basement and grabbed her, or if she stepped outside the basement and was walking to the swing or something." His words reflected the certainty he claimed to feel, and the uncertainty that still surrounded every other detail.
Just pray that God, in His awesome power, for His name's sake, that please, that Summer be okay, and please come home.
I can't imagine how you've been feeling these past couple days.
Yeah, it's been rough, but we know, I believe in the resurrection. Never seen so many Christians in one place in my life. like I say, that's pretty awesome to see that. And I just hope God in His mercies will deliver someone home to us.
Search operations slowed over the weekend, with fewer visible ground activities reported. Even so, the search did not stop entirely. On the night of June 19th, search helicopters could be seen working the area, their spotlights cutting across the hills and hollows around Ben Hill Road. By June 20th, 5 days after Summer vanished, the public had yet to see Candace Bly speak on camera. Not a single direct appeal to the community, no emotional plea for her daughter's return. In a case this urgent, that silence didn't go unnoticed. People began to question why the child's mother hadn't stepped forward in such a visible way. According to local station WJHL, Candace did speak to them privately, off camera, giving only a brief account of what she claimed happened that afternoon.
Our crews this morning as well, she said that, she went inside to do something, came back out, checked on Summer a couple minutes later, and next thing you know, she was gone.
Searches resumed on the morning of June 21st, but there were no major new updates provided. However, the following day brought a few notable updates. A Kingsport man offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to Summer's recovery. Investigators set up a roadblock along Ben Hill Road, stopping drivers to ask if they had noticed anything unusual on the day she vanished. By that day's count, the TBI had received at least 221 tips and urged local residents to check barns, crawl spaces, and other potential hiding places. The search area had now expanded to cover 4.6 square miles. On June 23rd, search teams continued to focus on the area around Ben Hill Road, while agents and detectives followed up on leads. As of that afternoon, the tip count had climbed to 304, but none had resulted in a breakthrough. Crews were seen conducting a grid search in a nearby field, maintaining the slow, methodical sweep of the surrounding terrain. On June 23rd, search teams continued to focus on the area around Ben Hill Road, while agents and detectives followed up on leads. As of that afternoon, the tip count had climbed to 304, but none had resulted in a breakthrough. Crews were seen conducting a grid search in a nearby field, maintaining the slow, methodical sweep of the surrounding terrain. On June 24, 2021, officials held a press conference to update the public on the search for 5-year-old Summer Wells. Summer was still missing, and authorities stressed they were more concerned than ever. Agents with the TBI, Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, and the FBI continued to explore all possibilities. The exact circumstances leading to Summer's disappearance remained unclear.
We want to reiterate that the circumstances leading to Summer's disappearance remain unclear, which is why we've been exploring all possibilities.
While an abduction had not been ruled out, investigators emphasized there was no evidence at that time to confirm it had occurred. It was still possible, they said, that Summer had wandered off and was lost or hiding. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson used the opportunity to make a direct plea to residents in both Hawkins and Sullivan counties. Please go back and check your entire property. That means outbuildings, barns, crawl spaces, anywhere a child might hide. He stressed that this would help the search teams tremendously, given the vast and remote terrain. By that point, 72 agencies from Tennessee, Ohio, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, and North Carolina had taken part in the effort. Specialized search and rescue units and K-9 teams were on the ground. Officials estimated that roughly 2,400 acres had been covered since Summer was reported missing on June 15th. The mountainous, heavily wooded landscape continued to slow the search. Still, crews were working around the clock, swapping out teams to keep the operation going both day and night. Even after dark, fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, FLIR, and aerial mapping were being used to scan the area until daylight. Weather was another factor. With severe thunderstorms in the forecast, search leaders said they would adjust which terrain they targeted, but it would not change their aggressive pace. On the investigative side, residents had responded to earlier requests for home security footage and trail camera images. Any vehicles or drivers seen near the Wells home during the time frame had been identified and interviewed. Family members, Lawson confirmed, were cooperative and remained upset. Authorities again stressed that they were following up on credible tips only, and that speculation or social media opinions were not helpful to the investigation. The focus, they said, was still the same. We will not quit until we find Summer Wells. The June 24th media briefing ended with investigators urging the public to recheck their properties, submit only credible tips, and remain vigilant. But in the days that followed, little changed. Despite hundreds of tips, surveillance reviews, and continuous ground and aerial searches, there was still no confirmed sign of Summer Wells. Most of the information coming in either led nowhere or was quickly ruled out, and publicly, the investigation appeared stalled. On June 26th, investigators released the first significant public lead, a vehicle they believed might be connected to the case, or at least to someone who had been in the area around the time Summer disappeared. It was described as a 1998 to 2000 maroon or red Toyota Tacoma with a full bed ladder rack and white buckets in the bed. The TBI made it clear the driver was considered a potential witness, not a suspect, but they might have seen something important. But beyond this, there was little new to report. By the following day, June 27th, the search had already reached a turning point. Crews had fought through nearly impassable terrain for days, covering thousands of acres of ridges, ravines, and thick undergrowth, yet no sign of Summer had been found. With more than 500 tips now logged, but no fresh leads to guide them, officials began scaling the search back from an all-out sweep to a more targeted effort. For the public, it meant fewer updates. For investigators, it meant squeezing every last possibility out of the limited information they had. June 28th marked the first on-camera appearance of Don and Candace together since Summer's disappearance, and Candace's first public statement. In the interview, she described the afternoon Summer went missing. Interestingly, her story had changed from just a few days prior.
Me and my mother and her were planting flowers, and we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from Grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers, and I said okay, and I walked her all the way over to the porch, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV, and I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back. And within 2 minutes, I came back, and I asked the boys where their sister was, and they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said, okay. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times, and I didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere in sight. She was just gone.
Her parents described Summer as an outside kind of girl, energetic, fearless, and always keeping up with her brothers. Don called her strong and athletic, noting she could pull herself onto her swing with just her arms. Don said Summer's constant need to be outside was her downfall, admitting he and Candace often had to remind the boys not to leave Summer outside alone.
Please don't hurt her. Please let her come home. But my biggest fear is, her being tormented or locked in a dungeon or basement or something, because she loved to be outside all the time. That was her, unfortunately, her downfall. Because a lot of times the boys would be inside and we'd be like, where's Summer? Why'd you leave her out there alone? Go get Summer now, and that's happened over and over again. And we'd come out and she would always be close by, but we was always coming up. She had to be outside. She was an outdoor person.
She loved to be outside.
Yep.
They spoke of her love for mud, water, running, swinging, dancing, and pretending to be a princess, as well as her deep affection for their church community, particularly a woman named Robin. Both parents repeated their belief that she was abducted and urged anyone with information to come forward. While stressing hope, They occasionally referred to summer in the past tense, later apologizing and attributing it to fear or habit. Candace would not appear on camera again until November 2021, nearly 5 months later. Since those early days, no substantial new information has ever been released to the public. The circumstances leading to the disappearance of Summer Wells remain as unclear today as they were on June 15, 2021. Despite thousands of tips, countless hours of searching, and the involvement of local, state, and federal agencies, Summer is still missing. On June 17, 2023, 2 years after Summer vanished, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed image. It shows what she might look like today at 7 years old. In it, you can still see her, the little girl with the bright smile, light blonde hair, and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 questions. Summer Wells has been missing since June 15, 2021, and until she's found, this image, part memory, part hope, is the closest anyone can get to knowing the young lady she's become. This is my public plea to those of you listening, those of you who truly care about Summer, and those who pretend that they do. Please stop the exploitation of her case. She's a missing little girl and should not be your primary source of income. And to the viewers, please be cautious in what you're supporting. As long as those who exploit Summer's case continue to make a profit, the cycle will never end. The people who are most capable of making the exploitation stop are all of you, the viewers. It's all about who you support, what you support, and what you don't. You can make a difference. If you have any credible information on the disappearance of Summer Wells, please contact the TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND or the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office at 423-272-7121.
Yeah, so there's that. God, that took so long. It's so weird to see it go so fast, knowing how long that took me. It's like 1 minute of time took like a week to write. Pretty good, huh? There's little things that I would fix here and there, but that's just my OCD going this, and nitpicking. All right, I'm just gonna get out of here because I'm tired from doing this. And yeah, I don't know the next time we'll talk. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll see. All right. I love you guys. I'm so glad you were here. And make sure you like and subscribe. God, that's so stupid. I'm so glad you guys were here to watch this with me. It was a lot of fun. We should do it again. All right. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys soon.